All right. Well, we're starting something new tonight. We finished up Second Thessalonians, and we're going to turn our attention to the Old Testament tonight for a new study. You know, in the Old Testament, we've got you break down the organization of the books in the Old Testament. You got the books of the law, the Pentateuch. I feel like I'm speaking to people who know this already, but just a reminder, a refresher, if you will. You got the books of the law: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. You've got the books of history, starting with Joshua rather, going all the way through Esther. You've got the poetry books: Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Job, and Psalm of Solomon. And then you've got the major prophets and the minor prophets. So I got a question for you, okay? What's the difference between a major prophet and a minor prophet? No Sunday school teachers are allowed to answer this, unless you're a substitute. Is bigger. I was getting ready to encourage you in that answer, but okay, gotcha. A full bird colonel versus a lieutenant colonel. Gotcha. Do what? Length of the book. Exactly. That is the difference between a major. It's like minor baseball players. The minor prophets didn't make as much, so they didn't make it into the major leagues. But yeah, that's it. They are. It's the length of the book. So Isaiah has 60 some odd chapters. It's a major prophet. Malachi's only got, what is it, 5? Boy, I'm doing this off the cuff, so I may be wrong. Is it 4 or 5? Anybody know right offhand? 4. Thank you. All right, and so it is the length of the books. That's good. But I got some questions. This is a response time. I want to test your knowledge of how well do you know your prophets. Okay, how well do you know your prophets? All right, we're going to start with the prophet Isaiah for just a minute. What did Isaiah do for 3 years to symbolize the upcoming captivity of Egypt and Cush to Assyria? He did something for 3 years. No. Good guess, though. That was not Isaiah, so you are correct in that. No other stabs. Oh, my goodness. Bingo. He was naked and barefoot for 3 years. I'm so glad that God is not led in that direction. But that's something that Isaiah did. Pretty bizarre behavior. Pretty bizarre behavior if you think about it. But God had a purpose in what he was doing. It was symbolic, a lot of what they did. Now we'll come to Mark's deal. Ezekiel lay on his side for 390 days and then 40 days on his other side, respectively, to symbolize the siege and the punishment of what 2 nations? No. No. Think a little closer to home. Their home. No. Israel and Judah. Right, exactly. Laid on his side 390 days for Israel, and 1 day for each year of their sinning, if you will. Same thing with Judah. It was 40 days representing 40 years of their sinfulness. Okay? All right. Next one. In Ezekiel 4 as well, Ezekiel was told to use what kind of cooking fuel to bake his bread in order to show the defilement of the people. What was the fuel that he was to use? What kind? Now, what was he asked to do first time? What kind of dung? Nope. Well, he may have, but this is a different one, if that's true. It did end up being cow dung because Ezekiel protested. But what did the Lord tell him to do to start with? Oh, now you guys know you want to say it. It was human excrement that God had commanded him to use. And listen, the purpose was to show the defilement of his people. I mean, would any of you, no, I don't think any of us would want to be, I cooked this bread for you and just want you to know, no, I don't think we'd want to be saying. The shock value that even your faces are expressing, just to let you know, that was the purpose, to get their attention, so that it would make an impression on them. Somebody mentioned Jeremiah a minute ago. What did Jeremiah wear on his neck to show Judah's submission to Babylon? Think about this. Something that would show Judah's submission to Babylon. Getting in the right direction. You're in the right direction. Yeah. What's it called? Not a horse collar, a yoke. Yeah, exactly. He wore a yoke to show Judah's upcoming submission to Babylon. Okay, not the last one, but next to the last one. What article of clothing did Jeremiah hide in a rock beside the Euphrates River and then retrieve again after a bit? God told him to hide this in a rock beside the river. No. I'll give you a hint. Think Tarzan. What was that? Loincloth. That's exactly right. Yeah. I told him to hide his loincloth there, and then later on to retrieve it. All right, last question. What did God have Hosea do in order to depict God's relationship with unfaithful Israel? Yeah, to marry Gomer, who was a prostitute. Exactly. And it's this last prophet that we mentioned, Hosea, whose book we're going to examine in the upcoming weeks, Lord willing. So, by way of an introduction tonight, I just want to set the stage historically. All right, I think history is important and get in the context of the time. Hosea was a prophet to the northern kingdom, that was Israel, and he was one of the last prophets to Israel. He prophesied until they were taken away into captivity. You may remember the northern kingdom split off from the southern kingdom after Rehoboam, that was Solomon's son, decided not to listen to his father's counselors, but to listen to the young men his own age, who counseled him. You need to be tough with these people. Don't let them slack off. Don't let them pull the wool over your eyes, kind of thing. And so when Rehoboam came out there and he was, he's saying, listen, man, my pinky is stronger than my father's thigh. I just want you to know, you thought my dad was tough. I'm going to be much tougher. Well, at that, 10 of the tribes said, well, good, you have your kingdom. We're going to go start our own. And so the kingdom of Israel was started with the 10 northern tribes. And Jeroboam led the rebel tribes in establishing that northern nation of Israel as their first king. Now, in contrast to the southern kingdom, Judah, who had some good kings interspersed with bad kings, the northern kingdom started off bad, okay, and then just continued its downward spiral through the years. And in spite of some of the most notable prophets ministering up in Israel. Elijah was a prophet to Israel. Elisha was a prophet to Israel. It's like God put before them, a powerful witness of His power and His truth before them. When we think about the things that Elijah and Elisha did in demonstrating that, and yet the king's hearts weren't turned. There might have been times of minor revival within the people, but for the most part, they just continued their digression, their progression down. 2 Kings 15 through 17, it gives a succinct rendering of the decline of the northern nation. And I would encourage you to read it to understand the moral and the spiritual climate into which Hosea was sent by the Lord to prophesy. In this passage, the Lord even explains why Israel went into captivity. So I would like to just read a little bit of this so you catch the flavor of why Israel went into captivity. This is from 2 Kings chapter 17, beginning in verse 6. It says, "In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria captured Samaria and carried Israel away into exile to Assyria and settled them in Hala and Habor on the river of Gozan and in the cities of the Medes. Now, this came about because the sons of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, who had brought them up from the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and they had feared other gods, and walked in the customs of the nations whom the Lord had driven out before the sons of Israel, and in the customs of the kings of Israel, which they had introduced. The sons of Israel did things secretly which were not right against the Lord their God. Moreover, they built for themselves high places in all their towns, from watchtower to fortified city. They set for themselves sacred pillars and Asherim on every high hill and under every green tree. And there they burned incense on all the high places, as the nations did, which the Lord had carried away to exile before them. And they did evil things, provoking the Lord. They served idols, concerning which the Lord had said to them, 'You shall not do this thing.' Yet the Lord warned Israel and Judah through all his prophets and every seer, saying, 'Turn from your evil ways and keep my commandments, my statutes, according to all the law which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you through my servants the prophets.' However, they did not listen, but stiffened their necks like their fathers, who did not believe in the Lord their God. They rejected his statutes and his covenant which he made with their fathers, and his warnings with which he warned them. And they followed vanity and became vain, and went after the nations which surrounded them, concerning which the Lord had commanded them not to do like them. They forsook all the commandments of the Lord their God, and made for